Alright, y'all, what we're gonna do today is some fresco painting. How that works is basically you take wet plaster and you paint before it has time to set. So the materials we're gonna need are a mold. I chose a basic plastic plate. We're also going to need to get some paintbrushes and paint. I had no clue how this was going to turn out, so I grabbed some really old, really cheap acrylic paint. I used black and red. Um, the next thing I had was a bag of plaster. I got this at Walmart. It was maybe $5 for a pack of four. Then I have this mini bucket with room temperature water so that we can do some mixing. Um, it does set pretty quickly within 10 minutes, so the first thing that I did was I went ahead and I got my paint ready. I took an old piece of cardboard to use as a palette. Um, all about that recycling. It was going to get thrown away anyway, so I just put a good amount to get started. I knew I could always add more if I needed to. Um, After that, I went ahead and I got my water cup, my paintbrush, and the next part was mixing the plaster. Um, This part is pretty easy, but there's a few things you need to keep in mind. The warmer the water, the quicker it sets. Typically, it's around 10 minutes that you're going to need to wait after you pour it, but warm water speeds that up, and colder water can slow it down. It's not monumental, but you'll notice while you're stirring that it's already getting hard. Um, Another thing is that you cannot pour this down the drain, obviously, because it sets and it gets hard. It will clog the drain. So if you are going to not throw away the bucket, which I ended up throwing this one away, excuse me, I ended up throwing this one away, um, then you're going to have to be able to wash it in another bigger bucket or toss the plaster outside right after you're done mixing and pouring. Um, and then again, for the mixing spatula, I did the same thing. If you take a look at what I'm showing you on the screen now, you can see that it's starting to settle because I haven't started mixing, so it's just the powder forming underneath the surface. Right when you see that little bit under the water, you want to add a little bit more so you get that island that you're seeing now. I went ahead and I sped up the video so that you wouldn't have to sit through the full mixing process. You'll see me stick my fingers in a few times. I had a teacher that told me that what you're looking for is for it to fully coat your finger. So if you put your finger in and then pull it out, it's going to almost look like a Mickey Mouse glove. I can't get that image out of my head, and I have not found a better way to test and see if the plaster is finished. So I checked it, added a little more when I felt like it needed it, and then once it was ready, I got ready to pour it into the mold. This process is pretty easy. So you just pull your mold out and then you pour it in. Just like anything else you mix, it can get bubbles in it. So because this one was pretty full, excuse me, I tapped it a few times and then I let it sit. So it's going to sit for about 10 minutes until it's going to be completely ready. You can tell when it's ready because you're going to tap it and it's going to feel slightly hard, but you're still going to tell that it's wet. Um, so I went ahead and sped up the painting process as well because everybody's going to do a different design. I honestly wasn't sure what I was doing when I started. I just kind of went with what was happening. You'll notice that it spreads out a lot. While I was painting, my paintbrush became a mixture of paint and plaster. So I grabbed a paper towel and I was wiping as I got new coats of paint. I wasn't worried about them mixing because I, again, was just trying this out. I wanted to see how it worked. Um, I went along and I started doing a butterfly. Uh, it reminded me a lot of the stones I used to make with my parents and my grandparents that they still have in their gardens. Um, I did try and do my initials, which I think was a complete fail, but maybe for someone who has better experience with this, they might be able to get a more solid line. You'll see that where it's still really liquid, um, where it's really liquidy, if that's a word. It spreads out a lot more. I actually took a paper towel and I dabbed around the edges just to get some of that water up and stop the spreading because I didn't necessarily want that. So once you're done painting, you're going to let it sit for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, it's going to feel completely hard, but it's not necessarily done. So you just want to pull it out of the mold so that all sides can get the air. Um, After this, I'm going to show you a preview of what it looks like, and this is what it's going to look like dry. It just needs a full 24 hours to completely set. So let me know if you try it.